Well guys, I think I am officially done with these new turbo Toyotas. And we're gonna use my Land Cruiser. Wait, that's not the Land Cruiser. Well, you see the Land Cruiser is actually at my old house. Kind of a long story, but let's drive over there and pick it up. Although this is not a Land Cruiser, this little hybrid Lexus actually, it's kind of quick. I think this garage clicker is probably older than me, but it reveals something special. And that is my turbo Toyota. Now you might be wondering why the Land Cruiser is at my old house. And well, as you can see, the interior here is all cleaned out. And while the yard's not perfect, it's a lot better than it was. So that leaves us at pretty much 99% done before we can post this house for sale and finally get rid of our old property. One thing I will give Toyota credit for with these new turbo Toyotas, always starts up every single time. Never had an issue with that. Let's first talk about the stuff that I've actually enjoyed before we get into the dirt. Believe it or not, I actually really like the on-road driving dynamics, the steering feel, the handling, and even the suspension. I've seen a lot of people say it's too truck-like, but I think that that's actually what makes this drive so well on-road. It feels a little bit more old school compared to some of the other new Toyotas. Something else that I've actually genuinely enjoyed is the power delivery. It's not the fastest, but it's got tons of low-end torque, and it's actually pretty smooth. I will say it's not nearly as good as the V6 in the GX550, but this does get slightly better fuel economy. I am traveling uphill, but still, that's brutal. While we're getting a car wash here, I will mention I do like the functionality of the new infotainment system. And the new camera system is also fantastic with the resolution and all of that. I've also enjoyed the creature comforts like the dual zone climate, the heated and ventilated seats, as well as the refrigerator center console, and the new multi-terrain select crawl control, as well as the stabilizer bar disconnect, and the rear locking differential is nice to have off-road. And these new seats are incredibly comfortable as well. Now enough chit-chatting, let's get into the dirt. So after the trip back home that was a bit windy and a bit uphill, 15.8 miles per gallon. Over my ownership period, I have consistently averaged about 16 to 17 miles per gallon, nowhere near the 22 to 25 that they have on the window sticker. But as you can see, with a quarter of a tank, 52 miles, on a full tank, I've been averaging just over 200 miles of range. Now to be fair to Toyota, I did remove the larger air dams, and I added these more aggressive all-terrain tires, but these are barely larger than stock. And just to show you how embarrassing that fuel economy is, this Ineos Grenadier that weighs 6,500 pounds averages over 17 miles per gallon. And as you can see, I've got tires that are pretty similar in size to the Land Cruiser Aggressive as well. And if that wasn't enough, my 200 series averages 15 miles per gallon and has pretty much the same tires as the 250. And need I remind you, the 200 series has a V8 under the hood. Yes, the battery situation in the cargo area has become more of an issue for me recently. There have been several times where I've been in this car, needed to pick something up, and could not fit it in the back. And so I literally had to swap out to the 200 series just to get normal stuff done. And it's not just the height that's a problem, it's actually the width of the 250. Very close attention to the body of the 250. Notice how it tapers towards the top. If you look at the 200 series, it does as well, but it's not nearly as aggressive. And that's because like half of the width of the 250 is the fender and the fender flare rather than the body. And so although the dimensions on this are very similar to the 200, it's significantly smaller inside. Now as a daily driver, that's not that big of a deal, but when it comes to fitting stuff and people in here, it can be a problem from time to time. The next big thing that I've had a really big problem with is the lack of ground clearance. I've got 33-inch all-terrain tires on this, and I constantly run out of clearance in the front and then big time with the center. And the crazy part is I have never once run out of clearance with the 200 series that's supposed to have about the same amount of ground clearance. And it really does make me concerned for the 250 because with how often it makes sweet love to rocks off-road, I'm worried this thing's gonna end up with like 10 different baby mamas and too much child support for it to be able to afford. All jokes aside, you think that this would be significantly more capable considering the boxy off-road looks. Now, Toyota did just lift the Lexus GX sibling vehicle for the 25 model year to help out with its ground clearance issues, but they can't really do the same for the 250 Land Cruiser here because it already has horrible handling, and so if you lift it, that's gonna make it even worse than it already is. And then the last big thing I'm gonna mention in today's video is just how small and weak a lot of the components are. I mean, all you have to do is just get under the vehicle and look at it for a little bit and realize that everything is teeny tiny on this. Sorry, the lighting is not great here, but look at how much beefier the tie rod is with the 200 series, for example. Now, this is a Prado, and so I don't expect this to be as beefed up as the full-size Land Cruiser, but it feels like they really cut things short on this. And what's even more disappointing is they actually beefed up things with its sibling vehicle, the Lexus GX, and so it's like they could have easily done it to the 250 as well. They just chose not to. With all of these shortcomings, does that mean that I'm finally going to be selling the 250? And the answer is I'm like 90% of the way there. But a big reason as to why I haven't done anything yet is because we haven't posted our old house for sale. And I wanted to get everything with that sorted out before I make any other big financial decisions. Because the debate that I'm currently having is between just selling this or trading it for something else. Now, I've looked into several different options and I've posted those on the channel, and I've kind of whittled things down to a few different vehicles. One of those vehicles is the GX550, but I have a few problems with it. First of which is the fact that I would have to heavily modify the vehicle to make it so that I could take it off-road. And that's because the bumper clearance situation is much worse on the GX. Although the breakover clearance is better because of that lift, so that helps. And then the other things with the GX is the space situation. The GX is slightly better than the Land Cruiser, but it's still worse than the 200 series. And then the off-road capability is another problem. I have done several off-road comparisons with the 250, the 200 series, and the Lexus GX over the last year. And what I've come to realize is the 250 Land Cruiser and the Lexus GX give you 200 series levels of off-road capability, but it doesn't give you any more capability than what you have with the 200 series. So from my perspective, the 200 series gives me a better engine, more interior space, better build quality, and just as much off-road capability. And so that's really left me with two other options that I would seriously consider if I were to get rid of the 250. The first of which is the Lexus LX700H. This new LX actually adds more off-road capability because not only does it have height adjustable suspension that gives it more ground clearance than any of the other vehicles, it also has a front locking differential, so you have even more control off-road. But the downside is not only would I have to sell the 250 Land Cruiser, I would also have to sell the Ineos Grenadier to make it work because there are no discounts on the LX. And the aftermarket parts that I would need to put on it, like bumpers and stuff, to make it so that it would be able to be good off-road would cost so much money that, yeah, I'd have to get rid of both of them. That leaves us with the final one that I didn't consider until last week, and that is the new Wrangler 392. Now here's how the new Wrangler became an option. I took the new 4xe off-road and I was extremely impressed with all of the changes Jeep has made for the 24 Plus model year when it comes to off-road driving manners and overall capability. And it made me realize that everything that I did not like about my 2022 Wrangler 392 has pretty much been fixed, and so it's tempting to go back into another Jeep because I absolutely love them. Now, a big benefit with this trade is I would only have to trade the 250 Land Cruiser, and that's because not only does the Wrangler 392 sticker for significantly less than the Lexus LX, you can also wheel and deal on those, and so I could bring the price down even more. But wait, there's more. Wranglers also have so much aftermarket support that it's very inexpensive and easy to modify them compared to modifying Toyotas. In conclusion, I'm done with the new 250 Land Cruiser. I don't think it's the worst vehicle on the planet. Like, this vehicle makes sense for a lot of people, but for me personally, it doesn't make all that much sense anymore. And so I'm not going to be doing anything right away, but I do plan on selling this in the near future or trading it for another vehicle. And right now I'm leaning towards either trading it for the Wrangler or just selling it outright. And the reason being is I think that Toyota just has major packaging issues right now with the US market. Like, the 250 Land Cruiser, to be perfect in my opinion, it should have the same underpinnings as the Lexus GX550 with the same powertrain as an option. Like, there needs to be a V6 option for those of us that are okay with getting worse fuel economy, that want more storage space. And again, we need to have heavier duty underpinnings with this. If you're going to put the Land Cruiser name on it, right, it's got to be a Land Cruiser. So GX550 engine, underpinnings, and then the EKDSS and the adaptive dampers, throw all of that at the 250 and then give it the front locking differential from the Lexus LX. In my opinion, if Toyota did that, the new Land Cruiser would be like the perfect vehicle, and I think people like myself would be more than willing to pay $80,000 for that. Like, obviously that's a ton of money, but if it had all the right equipment, we'd be willing to fork out the extra cash, but Toyota doesn't offer that, and so that's kind of where I'm at. I think that the product is great, it just feels half-baked. And this is kind of what Toyota always does, and so I have hope that towards the end of the line with this new 250 Land Cruiser that they'll make the improvements that it needs to have for it to be a fully baked vehicle that is absolutely fantastic. And I think once they do that, again, if they do everything that I just said, basically turn this into a GX550, add the front locking differential, it would be the best off-road vehicle in the US market, bar none, because you'd have a triple locked vehicle for under $100,000 that is actually daily drivable. Toyota, get to work, get it done sooner rather than later so that I can come. I mean, again, I'd be willing to trade, like if you guys do it tomorrow, I'd be more than willing to trade mine for that. So I don't know. That's my 2 cents. Let me know what you guys think about this whole situation.